A friend of mine asked a question, and he said that the purpose of education is to disseminate knowledge, help people understand their lives better, show them how to navigate this life, and create a beautiful environment for themselves and others. The purpose of hospitals is to cure the sick. The purpose of hospitals, I mean also doctors and so on, is to cure the sick, alleviate pain and suffering. The purpose of banks, for example, it really is to help those who are in need, get them on their feet, and so on and so forth. And if you expand this is the purpose of, or was the purpose of, take for example journalism, right? What's the purpose of journalism? Is to inform the public about what is happening, real happenings in society. Journalism is meant as a control on governments by ensuring that the people they govern have the right information about what is happening to them and about them in a timely manner, so that they can do something about it. If they need to take action, they need to take action. If they need to support, they need to support. If they need to oppose, they need to oppose. And all of this was, or should be, the purpose of journalism, that this is what journalists are supposed to do. But see what's happened. See what has happened today to all of these professions, and I can bet you that, I can respectfully challenge you to say, name for me any profession you like, and you will see the same corruption that has happened to all the professions. Now, and what is that corruption? That corruption is that the purpose for which that knowledge and that profession was, let's say, invented or started out for, has changed, and this diversity of objectives of professions has disappeared. And instead of that, we have all professions, without exception, being learned, pursued for one purpose only, and that is to make money. So we are living in a world today where education is for the sake of making money, where hospitals are money-making machines, where journalism has degenerated into becoming ad copywriters and advertising agencies for governments, where you name it, I mean everything, right? Where banks are literally bloodsuckers. They are not there to help people, but they are there to exploit people. The purpose of everything has degenerated and collapsed to have only one goal, and that goal is to make money. And the means of making money be damned. We don't care. As long as money is being made, it is the acme, the peak, and you have achieved your purpose. There used to be, when I was in the tea gardens, if people who didn't pay their club bills after defaulting for a couple of months, their names would be put up on the notice board, and as people who haven't paid, who owe money to the club, who have not paid their dues. And this was the ultimate disgrace. You never ever wanted to have your name, or you accepted to have your name on that list. But today, if you look at the membership of clubs, you have every kind of scoundrel who is a member of that club, and people say that very proudly and say, "Oh, you know who is on the membership of the club? So and so, so and so, so and so." You say, "Excuse me, wasn't this guy involved in this huge scam? Wasn't he involved in defrauding society, in doing all kinds of skullduggery that he did, thanks to which millions of people lost their life savings, and they lost, pensioners were on the street, people lost their homes." Take, for example, what happened in America, the so-called subprime crisis, where banks inflated, they inflated their figures, and they lent money for practically no surety, nothing, and people were inveigled into borrowing far more than they should have. They shouldn't have borrowed on interest anyway, but even those who did, they borrowed way beyond the hope of ever repaying any of that, and they were sold this absolute canard that they don't need to repay. And they were stupid enough to believe that. And the result was a recession. The result was economic collapse. And literally people who had homes, who had houses. I mean, they have this thing of calling a house a home. Houses are bought and sold. Homes are built. There's a world of difference. So people who had houses, they were on the street, and the banks repossessed what belonged to them in the first place. Now, all of this happened. Nobody asked the question why. And guess who got the rescue package, the economic rescue package? The people who lost their homes, or the people thanks to whom they lost their homes? The bankers. $700 billion gone to the bankers. So here is a bank owner, bank manager, a lot bigger than bank managers, but you know what I mean, who was responsible for making people who were homeowners homeless, walks away with a goodbye kiss of millions of dollars. Thank you very much for destroying our society. And the same sucker society is paying you this. This is what we have created. So today we have, instead of having professions which are focused towards doing good for society, we have those same professions focused towards only one thing, which is making money. And then we have I tell you, it really beats me. I say, how can we even ask this question? To say, why do we have so much misery? Why is there so much cruelty? Why is there so much, insensitivity in society? Because we build it in. When you have a health management system which is focused not on prevention of disease but on curing of disease. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that curing is something wrong. If it is there, it has to be cured, and we should do our best to do that. But I'm saying go a step before that and say, how can we have a system where disease doesn't happen? People do not get sick. Can we do that? And the answer is yes, of course we can do that. How? If we want to do that. So, instead of prevention, we are focus more on cure, and not because you want to cure the disease, but because that's how you make money. How can you make money as a hospital if you have a society which is healthy? You cannot. Your hospital will shut down because there's no one to come there. So the money to be made, the money to be made is in sickness, not in the cure of sickness. The money to be made in a not-profit welfare organization is where there are poor people. So I'm not saying that non-profits welfare organizations promote poverty, but I'm saying that their stake is in the propagation, is in the perpetuation of poverty, not in the elimination of poverty. If poverty were to be eliminated, they would have no jobs. So their stake is in ensuring that poverty remains forever, so that they stay in business. The stake of the doctor in the hospital is that sickness must continue and increase so that the doctor can make money, so that the hospital can make money. I sometimes jokingly say to people who I'm introduced to who are physicians, and they say, "This is Dr. So-and-so." So I say to them, "I'm very happy to meet you and I hope I never see you again." You know, I say, of course, I explained that to them why I'm saying that. But my point is that if that is the stake, if the stake is in, you get what you pay for. I mean, there's a simple principle in life: we get what we pay for. So if we are paying for sickness, you get sickness. If you're paying for health, you will get health. So I want you to think about this, and I think I don't need to give any more examples, but think about this and ask yourself, how can we change this? Because the purpose of all this is to help us to think differently and to learn differently and say, how can we change this stuff? We don't want to continue to, replicate this. So how can we change it and create a system which is based on goodness for society? How can we spread goodness around ourselves, where we don't have to live in fortified compounds, where we don't have to live in where our health insurance exceeds our food bill. We don't want to live in a situation where if you ever need money, then it's a death knell to your dreams, instead of making those dreams come true at some point in time. How can we do that? Everything eminently doable, but we have to change the way we think, because everything begins with a thought. The thought then enables the action, and the action produces results. Let me leave you with that thought, and let us pray for the wisdom and the persistence to do what is right, and to do what is correct, and to do what is moral, and to do what is ethical and valuable, not only to do what makes money. I am not against money. I am not allergic to money. Money is good, provided it is made in ways that are good and it is spent to achieve objectives which are good. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Keep the comments coming, and see you next week.